Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're an executive, general counsel, or leading an IT team, you're going to want to pay close attention because this briefing is built exactly for you. Today, we're diving into the hidden legal and compliance risks that are likely buried deep within your organization's cloud infrastructure right now. We are talking about a massive structural conflict between US and European law that is literally redefining what digital sovereignty means. All right, let's kick things off by busting a very common and frankly dangerous myth. A lot of organizations operate under the assumption that simply localizing data, putting it on a server physically sitting in Frankfurt or Dublin, automatically shields it from US jurisdiction. But as we'll see today, geography definitely does not equal sovereignty. Just look at the sheer scale of the vulnerability across Europe right now. US platforms control nearly 70% of the European cloud market. That includes the big hyperscalers we all know, AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud. What this means is that the vast majority of European enterprise data is sitting with companies that are ultimately bound by United States federal law, totally regardless of where they actually build their data centers. Here's our roadmap for tackling this today. We're going to cover the transatlantic data trap, the legal double bind it creates, the illusion of sovereignty, architectural sovereignty and high oak, and finally, some concrete strategic steps for compliance. Okay, part one, the transatlantic data trap, or what I like to call the myth of local storage. So what's actually causing this trap? Well, it all goes back to the U.S. Cloud Act of 2018. This law essentially lets U.S. authorities compel U.S.-based service providers to hand over data no matter where in the world it's physically stored. It completely bypasses traditional international treaties like mutual legal assistance treaties, which used to give European courts a voice in these requests. And on top of that, you have FISA Section 702, which lets U.S. intelligence agencies compel bulk data collection. Basically, if your provider is an American corporate entity, they have to comply. But here's where the headache starts for compliance teams. At the exact same time, the European Union is enforcing extremely strict data borders. Under the EU Data Act and GDPR, data stored inside Europe is legally protected from unlawful access by third countries. In fact, GDPR Article 48 explicitly says you cannot use a foreign court order as the sole basis to transfer EU personal data. You absolutely need an international agreement. Which brings us right into part two, the legal double bind. This is basically a zero-sum legal conflict. For U.S. cloud providers operating in Europe, and by extension, for you as their client, it's an absolutely impossible situation. You're caught in the middle. If a U.S. provider gets a cloud access subpoena for your European data, complying with that subpoena means they are likely violating EU law. But if they refuse the U.S. demand to protect that EU law, they face severe legal blowback in the States. They literally cannot satisfy both at the same time. For all of you in the C-suite, here is the number that should be keeping you up at night. Unauthorized data transfers. Like a provider quietly handing over data under the Cloud Act without a proper technical shield can trigger massive GDPR fines. We are talking up to 20 million euros or 4% of your global annual turnover. And trust me, this isn't just theoretical. European regulators are actively hunting for these cross-border exposures. Let's move to part three, the illusion of sovereignty and why standard contracts just aren't going to save you. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Hey, we're covered, we have data processing agreements and standard contractual clauses in place. And providers definitely heavily market these sovereign clouds based entirely on those agreements. But here's the reality check. A private contract between you and a cloud provider cannot exempt that provider from U.S. federal law. Contracts bind the two of you. They do not bind the U.S. Department of Justice. Think of cloud sovereignty as a strict hierarchy. At the very top, if you're relying entirely on hyperscalers under U.S. jurisdiction, you have practically zero sovereignty because of the extraterritorial reach of U.S. laws and sanctions. But as you move down this pyramid through European closed source to European-owned open source, all the way down to on-premise open source, your jurisdictional control goes up. True sovereignty is about making sure a foreign government can't expose your data or disrupt your services. So, how do we actually fix this? That's part four, architectural sovereignty and HYOK. This is the technical resolution. The real game changer to escape this transatlantic trap is architectural sovereignty, specifically a framework called HYOK, hold your own key. In this setup, the encryption keys are kept completely outside the cloud provider's environment. You might keep them in your own on-premise hardware or in a private European cloud. The genius here is that you make the provider technically incapable of handing over readable data. When you pair EU-based, customer-controlled keys. With a single-tenant European deployment and strict geofencing, this whole legal nightmare actually becomes technically moot. If a U.S. agency serves a Cloud Act demand for your data, the provider can technically comply by handing it over. But because they don't hold the keys, they're just handing over totally meaningless ciphertext. You satisfy the U.S. legal demand for the provider while flawlessly maintaining your EU privacy compliance. Let's bring it all together in Part 5, Strategic Steps for Compliance. Here is your roadmap for risk management. Achieving digital sovereignty isn't just flipping a switch, right? It takes strategy. Here are 5 concrete steps, straight from the latest compliance frameworks, that your legal and IT teams need to jump on right now. You kick things off with Step 1, inventorying your data flows. Once you know where everything is going, you jump into Step 2, conducting a hardcore risk-based analysis. This means pinpointing potential threats, like foreign government access, and defining strict protection requirements. You want to build a risk matrix that weighs the likelihood of those threats against the financial or reputational damage they'd cause. It visually maps out the risks so your executive board knows exactly what to prioritize. Once you know the risks, Step 3 is locking it down with enhanced technical security for your high-priority data. This is where you deploy that end-to-end encryption with client-side key management, the high-oak approach we just covered. You also want to weave in zero-trust architectures to fiercely isolate your critical data pools and make absolutely sure your geo-redundant backups are sitting in certified European data centers. Step 4 is all about your people, because technology alone won't save you here. You need to make organizational adjustments. That means setting up emergency task forces with clear exit strategies, just in case these international legal frameworks suddenly collapse. It also means running regular training programs so your teams actually know how to use collaboration tools in a GDPR-compliant way, plus running cyber attack simulations to keep defenses sharp. And finally, Step 5, strategic future planning. Look, completely isolating yourself from global tech just isn't economically realistic for most companies. The smart play is moving toward hybrid cloud models. In a hybrid model, your highly sensitive core data stays strictly local in European solutions or sovereign clouds, while your low-risk, everyday workloads get outsourced to global U.S. cloud services. It's all about managed, intelligent sovereignty. I want to wrap up this explainer with a really powerful thought from Martin Algrim, the CIO of Austria's Federal Ministry for Economy. He said, "You don't achieve digital sovereignty overnight. You have to start with the first step. Don't just talk about it, but execute it." So I'm passing that challenge over to you and your teams this week. Where exactly does your organization's legal exposure sit right now in the transatlantic data trap? And what is going to be your very first step to execute true architectural sovereignty? Thanks for joining me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.